Hey, welcome back to Great Lakes Junction. We're in the kitchen today again. We are stocking up our pantry. I said in our last video, our canning season has begun. I'm about to do some beef bone broth. So I've pulled some bones out of my freezer. I'm just going to throw them in the oven and roast them off to get a really deep dark color on them. And then we'll go about processing from start to finish bone broth. So let's get to it. So what we're going to do first is we're going to throw these in an oven. I've got it at about 400 to 425, and we're just going to roast them off as quick as we can. We don't want to take a whole lot of time doing that, and get that done. While that's happening, I'm going to chop up onions and maybe a little bit of garlic. If you like, you can put celery and carrots in as well, just to give it more of a flavor. And we'll get some herbs out to throw in that broth while it's cooking. So all we're going to do is chop up these onions really quickly. They don't need to be pretty. I'm just chopping the ends off. And these are out of my own garden, so I know where they've come from. They've been cleaned thoroughly. So I'm just cutting them up, and I'm going to put the skins in as well. Same with the garlic. They've been cleaned. I know where they come from. They're out of our garden. I'm just taking ends off. You can peel them if you want. Totally up to you. This will all be strained off later. We're just going to cut them up a little bit to release some of that flavor, and that's it. You can throw them in. Same with your carrots. If you want to put celery in there, go ahead and do that as well. I don't like carrots in mine. I find it adds a really sweet flavor to it, which I don't enjoy, but if you do, by all means, go ahead and throw them in. Okay, we have our bones all cooked off and browned, well, not cooked off, but browned up. So we're just going to add them into our pot here. I've drained some of the grease off the bones so we don't have to contend with it later. There was quite a bit of fat in there, so we'll put that in there. I have about 1/4 cup of tomato puree. I'm just going to add that. And I'm going to add maybe a teaspoon of peppercorn. You can add more if you'd like of them. And I had a roast the other night for supper, and I actually saved the drippings, so we're going to put them in. I just froze them and saved the drippings. And we have our vegetables, well, just onions and a couple of cloves of garlic. I'm just going to add that and 3 bay leaves in there. And now we're just going to fill this up with water and turn it on. Okay, that's all done. If you want to add those extra veggies in, carrots, celery, maybe even some mushrooms, by all means go ahead and do it at this point. We are going to turn it up, bring it to a boil, and then turn it back down to a simmer and let it simmer for 48 hours. I know that sounds like a long time, but that's the time it takes to get all the nutrients and all the flavor out of those bones. So we will be back about halfway to 3/4 of the way, just to give it a stir and see what it looks like, and add one more ingredient. We're about 36 hours into this broth, and I just wanted to come on quick and tell you to add a glug of apple cider vinegar. You know, and there goes the mother. put that in there, and it will help break down your collagen and the bones and the marrow a little bit better. We're gonna let this go maybe for another 12 hours or so, and then we're gonna start canning it up. So we'll be back then. Okay, we are all done. This has been cooking for, I think, about 48 hours, and we are just going to strain it off. And I'm just using this sieve. If you wanted anything finer than that, you could use some cheesecloth or something like that. But we're gonna strain it off for now and keep it warm until we start canning. I also have a little bit of oil on the top of this, just from it cooking down and whatnot. If you wanted to, you could cool this off and wait until the fat solidifies and then just take it off the top. I don't have a whole lot, so I'm just gonna leave it there, and I might try and skim a little bit of it off, but other than that, I'm just gonna leave it. So we'll be back in a minute after we strain. Okay, we're all done straining everything. We're just gonna start putting our broth in our jars, and I'm just going to use a measuring cup because it's so much easier. So we're gonna fill these up and leave 1 inch headspace. 1 inch is to the rim of this jar here. I'll finish these jars up and come right back. Okay, so we're all filled up. We're just going to take a paper towel with some vinegar on it and wipe off the rims and check for cracks while we're doing that, and get all the grease off the top, so to make sure that these seal up really, really well. Okay, so we're all cleaned up, and we're just gonna pop our lids on here and our rings. And while you're jarring up your broth, make sure your canner is turned on and getting hot. You want to put hot jars in hot canner, just to make sure that they're not cracked. They don't crack. Don't screw your lids on too tight either. Okay, so the canner's all loaded. We got 16 pints out of that. It's starting to warm up now. I'm gonna put the lid on it and we'll bring it up to temperature and let it vent for 10 minutes, and I'll bring you back to show you that too. Okay, we have a steady stream of steam coming out. I don't know if you can see that. So we're gonna set a timer for 10 minutes and then we will put our weight on. Okay, so our timer is just about ready to go off, and as you can see, our lock has popped up in the back here. We've been venting for 10 minutes. There's our alarm. And we are going to put our weight on. Now we're going to wait for that pressure to go up to 11, and that's for my area. Please check your manual of your canner and make sure you get it to the right pressure for your area. And being as we did pints, it's 20 minutes. Once we hit 11, we'll time it for 20 minutes. Quarts are 25. We'll be right back. Okay, our 20-minute timer is about to go off. We're still at 11 pounds, so I am just going to shut the heat off, and it needs to cool down to 0 pressure before you touch anything, and then we will be back. Okay, so we've hit the 0 and our lock has fallen back down, so we're just going to pop this off, and you see there's no steam coming out. You don't want any pressure in here, so I am just going to unscrew the lid and tilt it just a tiny bit and let it sit for 3 or 4 minutes. That's all, and then we're going to pull them out. Okay, we're pulling them out. They look so delicious. I can't wait to try these. And we got quite a few pints out of that batch that we did. So for this recipe, at the beginning, I don't think I actually said how much bones I had, but there was about 4 to 5 pounds of bones for 16 cups of water. Now I just had this jar right here just spit out a ton of air and some broth. So it's going to have a false seal on it. So I'm going to remember that jar, and I'm not going to put it in my pantry. We'll have use it in some rice or some soup or something in the next couple of days. I have not had any siphoning at all from this. My water is fairly clear. Hopefully they all seal. Except that one that I know is a false seal. You can probably see down there on the counter. Okay, they're all done. We're gonna leave them sit here for 18 to 24 hours, let them cool off. Then we're gonna thoroughly wash them up and make sure there's no grease and oil on them and no hard water stains. And then you can put them up in your pantry to enjoy at a later date. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below. I try to get back to everybody that leaves me a comment. And if you like this, hit that thumbs up for me. And if you're new here, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you'll be notified of the next video we put out. Until next time, stay safe.